Hello, welcome back. Before we get started today, I just want to say thank you guys for helping me reach 400 subscribers over the weekend. I know I haven't been posting that many videos recently, but I've got a lot of new content ready to go, and so you guys can begin to expect at least one video per week from now on. But anyways, today I bring you guys a 6x6 vault door. This version is completely seamless, so that means there are no pistons showing or any redstone showing on the side. I also decided not to use any slime blocks for the triple piston extenders, so that means there's no furnaces or immovable objects that have to be on the sides. This is the closing animation. Okay, now let's go look at it without all the blocks on top. And so believe it or not, this door is actually only 3 blocks wide. And I tried to keep it as small as I can by only going within the piston constraints, so I didn't build any further than where the pistons were. The only exception to this is the very top. I had to go 1 block higher, unfortunately. But I think it's okay for how small and easy to build this is. Okay. So this should be everything you'll need. I may have missed a few items or so. If I did, please comment down below. Otherwise, let's get started. So let's start off by just building the frame so you guys can understand where the store is and how big it is. So go 2 blocks off the ground and 6 across. This is where your floor will be at the very entrance of the door. And if you build another 6 all the way around, that will be your frame. Okay. So I'm going to put in the first few pistons. Put 4 down at the bottom, facing up like so. 6 all the way across on the sides. Do that on both sides. And just like the bottom, 4 on top. Okay, so that's the piston layout for the first layer. I'm gonna start with the sides here. From where this piston is, put a note block diagonally to it, just like so, and have an observer reading the note block, pointing away. And take your observers, make it go straight down, and every other from now on, put a observer pointing towards the left. And that will be the single piston retraction. Alright, just copy that to the side. Observer reading the note block, pointing to the left, and running all the way down. And every other block. And there you go. Now that we have the circuit that single fires the pistons and grabs these 6 blocks back to here, I'm going to show you guys how to make the double piston extenders, which means a piston pushing another piston to gather these blocks, which are 2 blocks away from the wall. Okay. So if you want this to be the front side of your door, go to the opposite side, take out your sticky pistons. From where this observer is, put a sticky piston diagonal to it and another one in front. So that's a double piston extender. Repeat that 2 more times. And now we have 3 double piston extenders. Due to quasi-connectivity, we can power these top 2 at the same time, but the third one cannot be powered, so we have to have another circuit down at the bottom. Take your block, or whatever the wall is made out of, put it there. And this is the first of the yellow circuit. So I'm going to put a block there, and an observer pointing straight down onto this yellow block, and another observer pointing straight down onto the iron block here. We can have 1 more observer pointing straight down, facing onto the top row of pistons in the middle. Now have an observer reading the one on top of the yellow block, pointing to the right, and another 2 pointing to the right, just like so. So that's the double piston extender. To power it, we're going to actually take the signal from where this note block is, having an observer pointing to the right of the top observer pointing straight down, and another one pointing straight up. Redstone dust here, and a repeater pointing into these two observers, set to 3. So if I put blocks in front of them now, you can see this is the double piston extender. For the bottom double piston extender, I'm gonna go to this bottom observer right here and put a note block with a observer pointing straight up, reading it into a block. Then from the note block again, 2 observers to the right and 1 pointing straight up. Now this is a bit different than the other one. You can't just right click on the note block for it to work. We actually have to send a long pulse like a button. And so that won't do the full extension, but it will do the retraction. That's because for the bottom double piston extender, I actually had to use the triple piston extender to help it out, which is the next circuit. So this is the triple piston extender, which pushes these 3 pistons by pushing the first one to here and then the second one to here. We can grab this block and pull it all the way back. Let me show you how it works. Okay. So we're going to build that, and that helps with the double piston extender down at the bottom. To start building the triple piston extender, we're going to go from this yellow block right here and put 3 sticky pistons pointing towards the center, just like so. I'm going to take my observer, put it straight up, reading this piston, and 2 observers pointing to the right. Put a block above this observer, your repeater, the far one, set to 4, use the redstone dust connecting it. I'm going to build a torch tower. I'm going to put 1 block of air below this piston and another one, like so. Torch here, and torch here. Then I'm going to have a observer parallel to this yellow block pointing straight down, and just like the double piston extender, pointing to the right and pointing straight up. On this redstone torch, I have a repeater pointing to the right, set to 4, or set to 2. And so, just like before, this is the triple piston extender, but like the double, it actually has to use a button pulse. So if I put blocks in front of this piston, the observer, and the repeater, we can test out the triple piston extender by putting a button here. And as you can see, the double is also working alongside it. Okay. So to make it act like a button pulse, we're actually going to use this observer here and create a pulse extender. So from this observer, take a note block, put it right in front of the observer, and then we're going to go make a little L, just like that. An observer reading the note block pointing to the left, and a block diagonal to it, like so. We're going to take a redstone, put it here, and here. Repeater, pointing towards this redstone set to 4, and another repeater set to 4 here. Now it should all be connected to this piece of note block. If you right click it, you can see all of it is working. You're wondering how this works as a pulse extender. What happens is it powers this redstone dust, and then a second later, through this observer, powers the redstone repeater, which powers the redstone dust again. So it acts like an extra long pulse. See? So now we're just going to build that on this side. So like before, double piston extender, diagonal to the top observer, 2 like so, another 2, or 3 double piston extenders, a block here, the wall block here, 2 observers facing straight down onto the 2 blocks, and another one pointing straight down in the middle. And the one above the yellow block, observer pointing towards the left, and another 2 pointing towards the left. Power it, reading this observer pointing towards the left, another observer pointing up, redstone dust here, repeater, set to 4. Make sure it works by testing it. Okay, now we put a note block here, observer pointing straight up from the note block into a block, observer reading this note block pointing towards the left, and then up into the first piston. That's the double piston extenders. Now we can begin the triple. From the yellow block, 3 pistons, observer pointing straight up, 2 to the left, block above this observer, repeater here set to 4, redstone dust connecting it. Build the torch tower again. On this yellow block, observer pointing straight down, and like the double piston to the left and straight up. Put a repeater set to 2 here. And with that, we're done with the double piston extender and the triple piston extender. Now we just have to connect it. Like the other side, note block here. Make a little L. An observer pointing towards the right, like so. And a block diagonal to this one. Redstone dust here and here. Repeater set to 4, pointing towards the left. Repeater set to 4, into the torch. And if you take your blocks, put them in front of the observer and the redstone repeater right there, we can test it again. So that's the left side, and this is the right side. And as you can see, it's beginning to form the door, and this is what it should like, just for the top side. Let's begin the top side. So for the top side, we're going to get, just like before, the first layer, which is the single pistons at the top. So from this note block, observer pointing towards the left, observer pointing up, to the left, up, and to the left. Now we're going to put a block here, and a note block here, and that will power these 2 pistons. Okay, copy that on this side. From the observer pointing to the right, up, to the right, up, and to the right. A block, and a note block there. For the top double piston extender, we're going to go to where these note blocks are and put down 2 sticky pistons pointing straight down. Then you're going to have an observer parallel with the bottom 2, like so, pointing straight down. And then with the top, have an observer pointing straight down onto the top 2 pistons, just like so. And another one right next to it. So it'll look like this. Have a note block, place it in the little gap right there. And that's it for the double piston extenders. We're going to put slabs here so it does not power these pistons down at the bottom. And then we're going to put redstone dust, like so. Heaters there. And we can test that actually by putting a button here. And if you put the blocks in front of the observer and the piston, that'll be the double extender. Alright, now we just have to do the triple extenders to get the center blocks. So this is my triple piston extender. It's kind of complicated actually, because it needs 2 button pulses to work. The first time you press the button, it will push down the block, and the second time you press it, it will reset the pistons. So if you do it twice again, it'll bring the block back. So this is a bit complicated because you have to press the button twice for it to work. But to do that, I just made a big repeater loop. But I'll show you guys how that works in just a sec. So let's build that over here. 3 sticky pistons pointing straight down, parallel with the top observers, like so. And I'm going to put the floor blocks in here. It'll make it a bit easier to work. and whatever block you want right there. You're going to have redstone dust here and here, and an observer pointing to the left and right, just like so. We're going to have one more observer pointing into the top, or the middle sticky piston, just like that. And two observers pointing straight down, like so. Put a block here, and here, and a repeater there. Redstone dust on both sides. This is set to 2. And you can put redstone dust on top of this block of wool. So now if you reset all the blocks that moved, and you press the button, you can see what happens. It does the first button press. And so now we need the second one. So to get that, I just made a really long repeater loop. So 3 blocks out like so. Repeater set to 4, pointing all the way out. In here, I actually took the signal to power this note block, which powers the rest of the door. So from where this repeater is, I have a sticky piston pointing down with an observer pointing down also. I'll put a block right above it, and that will power the side block. Block here, and you can run it all the way back. Repeater here set to 4, and then we can just have redstone running all the way back. Do it on this side also. 3 out, repeaters set to 4. An sticky piston there, observer pointing straight down, block, run all the way back. Repeater there set to 4, and redstone dust. If we put back all the blocks, we can test it again. And there's our triple piston extender along with the sides, because now the sides are connected to the top button. All that's left now to do is just the little bit at the bottom, which is just only double piston extenders and the single one. Now to power these bottom pistons, over here, there actually isn't much space to put redstone. So I was actually taught by MU in 222 how to use a piston tape to power these 4 pistons. We put a normal piston there, diagonal on both sides. Block here, observer pointing straight up, block, observer pointing straight up, and a block. I can show you how this works. So first we power the left piston, which gets these 2 blocks, and then the right one. It resets the tape and it powers all the pistons. And it's the same thing for the retraction. Okay, so to connect all of this up, put a block here and here with a repeater pointing that way. The point of this repeater is just to redirect the redstone from being a straight line, because it will power this piston for whatever reason. To do it on this side, it's actually a little tricky. Where this repeater is, have an observer pointing straight down, and then another observer pointing to the left. And then just put the repeater set to 4 back up to where it was. So it's still the same extender time. We're just putting 2 observers here to power this piston. You can see it now. Press this button. That's how we get these 4 blocks right there. The very last thing we need to do is the double piston extenders down at the back. So from where this repeater is sticking out, we're actually going to have an observer placed there, 1 block away, pointing towards the center. I'm going to do that 5 times, and then put observers reading that one straight up on top. I did this first because now we can put in our double piston extenders parallel with this one. It's like so, really easily. Now to move this tape back and forth, we're going to have from this yellow block right here, 2 normal pistons pointing towards the center. Same thing on this side. And you can put your blocks here and here. I'll explain to you how this tape works in just a second. But first, let's connect it up. So from where this yellow block is, block here, redstone dust. That will power both these pistons at the same time. The left side is a bit trickier though. We're actually going to have to remove this redstone torch, the block it's standing on, and replace it. Go below it. Observer pointing straight down, reading the note block. Observer pointing to the right, which powers this bottom piston, and one pointing straight up, with a block on top of it. What this does is it powers it at an offset of 1 tick. See? You can fix these blocks here, and if you put blocks on top, just like so, I can show you how this works. First we power the right piston at the same time. That will do the double extension, and if you power this note block, it'll retract the pistons. You do it again, it'll grab it down and do the retraction. And that's how the bottom side works. And everything's working. If you press the button now, that's embarrassing. So I've used this design multiple times, and as you can see, it has worked every time. But for whatever reason, this one time it doesn't work. I did find a fix for it however. If you guys do have this issue, I'm not sure if you will, just instead of the redstone dust here, place it with a repeater and a block on top of these pistons. Come over to this side, and we're actually going to break that now. You can replace this back to a normal wool block. It's a bit more of a complicated fix, but if you have you're going to want to put a observer pointing straight down from where this repeater will be sitting, which is set to 4, and then have that reading pointed to the right, and that will fix your issue. I've never had that issue, however, so I'm not sure if it'll show up again. I've double checked everything and it's all built correctly. It's just this one time it's got a weird issue. And as you can see now, everything is working. Okay. A few quick tips if you want to power this. There's a few ways to do it. Either you could run repeaters out the back here and just have wiring on the ceiling somehow, because this is a huge door and you'll most likely have room. Or you can find a way to power it through the front. You have a repeater here. It has to be a button input. So it doesn't matter where the button's coming from, as long as you have redstone running into this repeater from any button. It'll work. You can just wire that anywhere. Okay. That's my 6x6 vault door. Thanks for watching.